Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your WWE News and Rumors, man. The day is here. The day that nobody looks forward to. The day that everybody talks about. It's pretty much WWE showing their ruthless side. We finally, unfortunately, get WWE releases across the board from main roster to NXT. I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about that today. My thoughts on the WWE releases. And honestly, man, just the overall, I wouldn't even say solution. I would just say my thoughts on it and the reason why I think these certain individuals were released. And unfortunately, yeah, they are released. They have a 90-day non-compete clause for the main roster and 30 days for people on the NXT roster as well, man. So I wanted to talk about some of these releases with you guys today, my thoughts on it, and where I think these individuals may go next once they are able to finish out their non-compete clause and seemingly join any other company besides WWE. So let's get into the releases, man. I want to start with the main roster and work our way down to NXT. Or actually, you know what? I want to start with NXT and work our way up to the main roster. So the NXT releases that WWE put out. Now, meanwhile, all this took place roughly around 5:30 on Friday, right before, a couple hours before SmackDown went on the air. Now, this was the first SmackDown after WrestleMania, so usually around the end of WrestleMania, going into the summer, usually 9 times out of 10, it's pretty much standard WWE protocol that they do these releases every year. It's kind of, unfortunately, it's them kind of cleaning house, trying to figure out what talent are actually being utilized, what talent are not being utilized, and actually it all comes down to creative, to be honest with you, which we'll talk about that as well on today's episode. But the NXT releases are as follow. We have Andre Chase released from NXT, Dante Chen, Tyra May Steele, Serena Linton, Chris Island, Tyreek Igwe, Trill London, Luca Crucifino, Malik Blade, and Tyson DuPont are all released from WWE NXT. Now, like I mentioned earlier, these talents, I don't know much about NXT. I haven't watched NXT since the Black and Gold era when Triple H was running NXT down in Orlando. So I'm not really familiar with the talent that is currently on NXT as of right now. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I don't really cover NXT. But with these NXT talents, I believe some of these talents, if not one talent, was actually brought in on an NIL deal and was actually released. And I don't specifically know what individual that was, but I do know there was a lot of backlash from the NXT roster that were really upset with the fact that you're bringing these individuals in on an NIL deal to bring them in to be, the next superstar in WWE or to be the next NXT talent, and you release them. Now, usually 9 times out of 10, these NIL deals from WWE are usually pretty much forked out to, collegiate athletes, whether it's, football, basketball, baseball, gymnastics, so on and so forth. They bring these talents in from college to give them a WWE tryout if they choose to do that. So I know there was a lot of backlash from a certain individual that was released, that was brought in on an NIL deal. So there was a lot of backlash from that. So, look, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate that a lot of these talents were unfortunately let go from WWE. A lot of talents that were on this list from NXT, I'm not really 100% familiar with. But at the end of the day, man, it's still unfortunate. I mean, these men and women, lost their jobs. They lost their jobs, and now they have to wait 30 days, a month, to hopefully get picked up from another company, whether it's TNA, whether it's AEW, whether it's New Japan, or more likely the Indies. But they had to wait out the 30 days for the non-compete clause for NXT. NXT talent only have 30 days for a non-compete. Once the 30 days are up, they're able to sign with any other company they choose to, or any company that wants to bring them in for their services. So it's unfortunate. It really is. Like I said, unfortunately, these men and women lost their jobs on Friday. And again, Godspeed. I hope the best for them. And hopefully they're able to get picked up from another company after the 30-day non-compete clause that they have from NXT. So that's definitely unfortunate. And then we get to the main roster releases. Now, this is where shit got insane on a lot of, all across the board from these releases. Some releases I wasn't surprised with. Some releases I was like, wow, to be honest with you, with certain releases. And there was one that actually shocked the hell out of me. I think it shocked a lot of people to a point where WWE even took notice and was putting out tweets stating they want this certain talent back in WWE. And that one talent, man, honestly, when they released her, which we'll talk about here in a second, I was actually shocked because they were showing her on Monday Night Raw consistently, to be honest with you. So I was very surprised with WWE pulling the trigger and releasing this certain talent, to be honest with you. So we'll talk about that as well in today's episode. So let's start off with the main roster releases. And the list is as follows, man. The first release was the entire stable of the Wyatt Six. Now that means Bo Dallas, Joe Gacy, Dexter Lumis, Nikki Cross, and Eric Rowan are all now released from WWE. So when this was announced, bro, I wasn't 100% shocked, but it definitely was intriguing because they brought in the Wyatt. I remember when the Wyatt Six debuted. They showed up on Monday Night Raw. They caused complete and utter chaos on Monday Night Raw. They were beating the shit out of WWE security, staff, and you had the camera pan to the back, and you saw each individual backstage have their moment. Whether it was Rowan, Uncle Howdy, whether it was Nikki Cross, Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, they all had their individual moments, and they all came together as the Wyatt Six and was presented on Monday Night Raw. And obviously everybody got excited. And the reason why that is because we saw what Uncle Howdy did when Bray was around. And what I mean by that is when Uncle Howdy was a thing, when it was formed in WWE from Bo Dallas, it got a lot of people excited. You know, Uncle Howdy was working with Bray Wyatt or The Fiend. Uncle Howdy was also having interactions with Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss was having her time with Bray Wyatt and the storylines they had leading up to WrestleMania and the matches that Bray had with Braun Strowman in the Swamp. We all saw Uncle Howdy. And it was one of those things where when you saw Uncle Howdy, it got a lot of people's attention. It got a lot of people excited. But then eventually they let him go. They let Bo Dallas go. They brought him back. And they formed the Wyatt Six, which consisted of Bray, Rowan, Gacy, Lumis, and Nikki Cross. And they brought them in. And honestly, man, they didn't really have a plan for him. You know, there was no creative push. There was no creative direction. There was no character intrigue in the Wyatt Six. I mean, a lot of people wanted to know the characters behind who Lumis was, behind Gacy, behind Uncle Howdy, Rowan, Nikki Cross. We were not getting that intrigue from the character development side of the Wyatt Six. It was pretty much what you saw was what you were going to get. Now, we all know the nostalgia of what the Wyatt Six originated from. I mean, it originated from Bray Wyatt. Now, I told you guys that, Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six, it's not the same than what Bray had originally with himself, Eric Rowan, and the late great Brody Lee. They don't have that. So they were trying to take that, and unfortunately Bray Wyatt had passed away. So this adaptation of what Bray Wyatt had, this was trying to reinvent what Bray was, what Bray had to kind of push it forward after Bray had passed away to keep the legacy alive of Bray Wyatt. But I'm going to be honest, man. I think the Wyatt Six, the entire stable itself, it shit the bed. And I don't blame the Wyatt Six at all. I don't blame Bo Dallas at all. I blame WWE Creative. Every time that we saw the Wyatt Six on television, 9 times out of 10, they were dealing with Solo Sikoa and the MFTs. They became, Gacy and Lumis became tag team champions, and there really wasn't no, progression from Uncle Howdy. There was really no progression from Nikki Cross. I mean, I don't even think Nikki Cross even had a damn match being Sister Abigail. 9 times out of 10, Nikki Cross was just standing there ringside with the Wyatt Six, or she was standing there with Uncle Howdy. There really was no progression with Bo Dallas. I feel like Bo Dallas had more of a progression with the character of Uncle Howdy when he was showing up randomly on Monday Night Raw and, kind of mocking Alexa Bliss or, trying to get in the head of Alexa Bliss or Bray Wyatt. That was the best character progression that Bo Dallas had as Uncle Howdy. Ever since Bo Dallas came back in the fold of WWE and the Wyatt Six was formed, I just felt like it felt flat. They had no direction for it. They had no intrigue, no character development. and it fell flat. I mean, it got to a point where a lot of people were already getting sick and tired of seeing the Wyatt Six and the MFTs compete every single night on Friday Night SmackDown in a tag team division that is deflating and just deplorable at this point. I mean, it's like I said, I don't blame the Wyatt Six. I blame the creative direction of WWE of where they were going to put the Wyatt Six. There was no character intrigue. There was no character development. There was no intriguing storylines to get people excited to want to see the Wyatt Six. Every time we saw the Wyatt Six, it was like, oh shit, here we go again. It's the same old song and dance. Nothing's changed, nothing's different, and this is what we're going to get. It gets boring after a while. You know what I mean? It's just, there's no intrigue. There's no character interest in what's going on with the Wyatt Six. So, was I completely shocked with this release? Not entirely, no. But is it unfortunate? Yeah, because I feel like the Wyatt Six could have done a hell of a lot more in WWE than what they did. And I feel like WWE and Triple H and Nick Khan had no ideas or plans, for that matter, for the Wyatt Six. And unfortunately, they are released from WWE. Now, the other release that I have on this list, this was the biggest shock for me. And I think it was the biggest shock for a lot of fans. And that release is none other than Kairi Sane for the Kabuki Warriors. Kairi being released was a shock. I think for a lot of fans, myself included, because this was one individual out of all the releases that I'm getting ready to tell you guys, this is that one release that A, doesn't make sense. B, Kairi was actually being showcased on Monday Night Raw weekly, dealing with Asuka, dealing with Io Sky. I mean, she's had matches with Io. She just had a tag team matchup not too long ago with Asuka. They were both competing for the women's tag team titles at one point. So to see Kairi released, I was shocked. I was 100% shocked. I did not see that coming. I was shocked. Because at the end of the day, there was still a lot for Kairi Sane to do. They were working an angle, I believe, where Kairi was going to separate herself from Asuka and maybe join the likes of Io Sky, or the fact that they were trying to work some storyline here between Asuka, Kairi, and Io Sky. And unfortunately, that's not the case anymore because Kairi Sane was released from her WWE contract. To me, this was the biggest one that didn't make sense at all. You had Kairi Sane on Monday Night Raw, honestly, seemingly weekly. She was dealing with Asuka, she was dealing with Io Sky. That storyline was starting to heat up a little bit, and now it fell flat because Triple H and Nick Khan feel as if they have no ideas or plans for Kairi Sane. And this is the second time that Kairi was released from WWE. Kairi was released I think it was like a year or two ago. Might have been longer than that, and then took a hiatus. She was wrestling over in Japan, and then they brought her back, I think roughly around WrestleMania, a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And she's had matches. I mean, it's not something where, it's the same match over and over again. They were trying to put her in some kind of storylines to make sense of everything. And dealing with Io Sky, dealing with Asuka, the Kabuki Warriors. I mean, hell, the Kabuki Warriors were going after the women's tag team titles. They had matches with Alexa and Charlotte and the Judgment Day. I mean, they've had these matches. So, I mean, to me, having Kairi Sane being released from WWE is insane to me. I mean, you already have WWE talent and staff saying #we want Kairi back. This was a mistake. This was one of those releases where a lot of people are pissed about and up in arms about because, again, she was actually being showcased on Monday Night Raw almost seemingly weekly every single Monday night. So clearly you had some kind of plan with her. Then if that was the case, then why did you showcase her on Monday Night Raw every single week? You know what I mean? But they released her. And to me, that was the biggest shock out of all these releases. Other releases that I have on here, this one honestly didn't shock me entirely. Aleister Black. Aleister Black has been released from WWE. He's no longer part of WWE. Now, with Aleister, I'm going to be honest, man. Aleister, I think, is a definition of the grass is not always greener on the other side. When he was in AEW, now credit, AEW had a talent at that time with Aleister Black that could have been multi-time AEW World Champion. Or definitely in the main event scene for AEW, and they really had no plans for Aleister Black. He was in a stable of the House of Black with himself, Brody King, Julia Hart, and Buddy Matthews. It was a great stable. Aleister Black didn't really have the opportunity to really have a singles run in AEW, and he opted to go over to WWE once his contract was up. Now, there is rumors that Aleister Black refused to take losses in AEW. I don't know if that's true or not. I know he was dealing with some injuries himself, dealing with a back injury that was kind of hindering him in the ring. So he was dealing with a lot of injuries at that time. Took some time off. But then he went over to WWE. He actually, and it's crazy because he went to WWE, returned to WWE around April 25th, 2025. Here it is now, April 27th, 2026, and he's released. Aleister Black returned to WWE, didn't do jack shit, and was only there for a goddamn year. And honestly, on paper, what could you really say since Aleister Black has returned to WWE? What has he done that's been so significant in his return? He had a match with Damian Priest, a storyline with Priest. And the crazy thing is that there was rumors and speculation that Aleister Black was actually supposed to be involved in the Randy Orton-Cody Rhodes match for this year's WrestleMania. He was supposed to be the voice of the voices. He was supposed to be the guy playing the mind games to Randy Orton, getting in Randy Orton's head, making Randy Orton realize who he is as a wrestler and an individual, and return back to the Viper, the legend killer. But Ari Emanuel and TKO decided to scrap that idea, and let's bring in Pat McAfee, the biggest TKO stooge of them all, and let's bring him in, replace Aleister Black, and have Pat McAfee involved in one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time. Which seemingly, honestly, at this point, after that news broke, that pretty much killed Aleister Black's career in WWE. He's gone. You know, where for Aleister Black, I mean, I don't even know. There's already rumors and speculation that there's certain talents in AEW that don't even want Aleister Black back in AEW. Now, I don't know how Tony Khan feels about that, on whether they want to bring him back. I'm sure he'll probably entertain the idea, just because the name of who Aleister Black is. But there's certain talents in AEW right now that don't really want to work with Aleister Black. Andrade's kind of been back and forth on whether he wants to work with Aleister Black in AEW, if he returns back to AEW once his non-complete clause is over. You know, I think for Aleister Black, and, you know, I think Aleister Black should definitely entertain the idea of going to New Japan. Now, I don't know if TNA is going to come knocking. I don't even think TNA has the money nor the resources to sign talent for a long-term deal. I just don't. And not for nothing, I don't think TNA is in a spot right now to fork out money for a long-term contract. Right now, they have talent on the docket right now that are there for maybe a year, maybe 6 months, and then that's it. Sonya Deville, other certain talents are only there for a year. I don't think they have the funding to really sign talent to a long-term deal. So it's going to be very telling to see where Aleister Black goes after his 90-day non-complete clause is over, to be honest with you. I don't know. Am I shocked by this release? Absolutely not. I'm not. I think Aleister Black left WWE because he saw the writing on the wall for AEW. He thought the grass was greener on the other side. And I think a lot of AEW talent that are there in AEW that want to go to WWE, they genuinely, I think they honestly believe that they're going to get the Cody Rhodes treatment. That they're going to be a main event star, that they're going to be a multi-time world champion, they're going to be a part of the biggest storylines in pro wrestling. And sometimes that does not happen. And not for nothing, Aleister Black is no Cody Rhodes. He's not. He's a great wrestler. He's a great competitor. He's a great athlete. But he's no Cody Rhodes. I mean, they brought Aleister Black back to AEW. They kicked out Karrion Kross and Scarlett and pretty much gave what Kross and Scarlett were doing in WWE to Aleister Black and Selena Vega and said, hey, try to turn chicken shit into chicken salad and try to make this shit work. And it's not. It didn't work for Kross and Scarlett. It's not going to work for Aleister Black and Selena. It just did not work. And unfortunately, because of that, Aleister Black was let go. The other person that was let go that was really close to Aleister Black was Selena Vega. Selena Vega is now also released from WWE. She's out of her contract with WWE. She has a 90-day non-compete clause, and she will be a free agent in 90 days. Vega is now no longer with the WWE. Now, am I shocked by this at all? Absolutely fucking not. I've gave my thoughts on Selena Vega. I think she had one of the worst title runs with the U.S. title of all time. I think she's better suited to be a valet or a manager, to be honest. I think what she did with Andrade, when Andrade came into the main roster, was fantastic, and working with him in NXT was great. And I think Selena she finally found her footing being the manager or valet to her husband, Aleister Black. I think it worked for Selena. I don't want to see Selena Vega in the ring, bro. I think it's boring. It's generic. I don't think she needs to be in the ring. She doesn't. To me, right now on paper, if Zelina wants to continue being in the wrestling business, she needs to be a manager or a valet. I'm not shocked by this release at all. There was no production, there was no interest, there was no storyline progression with Zelina, character development, there was nothing. Hell, she was using the old school SmackDown theme as her entrance music. There was no storyline, there was no progression with Zelina. What you saw is what you get. And the writing was on the wall for Zelina. I think Zelina Vega herself knew that time was coming, to a close with WWE. She wasn't doing shit. Her title run was meaningless and meant jack shit. There was nothing else more for her to do, bro. Nothing. So I was not shocked by Zelina Vega at all being released. It's unfortunate she lost her job with WWE, but I was not shocked by this release by Zelina Vega. The other releases that I have on here is one, Santos Escobar. Now, I was shocked by this as well because Santos was, if you guys remember not too long ago, Santos was in a predicament where his contract, WWE actually let his contract run out. And seemingly he was on his way out. He was already in talks with Tony Khan and AEW. He was on his way out the fucking door. So WWE found this out. They brought him back, but it wasn't like they brought him back to the main roster. They brought Santos back to AAA. He wasn't brought back to the main roster in WWE. They brought him in as a heel, seemingly in AAA. Now, did that work? Not really, because unfortunately Santos got injured and was put on the shelf. And once again, WWE shows the Ruthless side and ended up releasing him anyway. I mean, he's due for surgery here, if not now, but soon. Major surgery that's going to put him on the shelf for probably 6 to 8 months. So that's shitty. That's unfortunate because here's a guy that was seemingly on his way out the fucking door. He was done. He was like, you know what? They're not using me. I'm going to see if I can go somewhere else. I'm going to talk to Tony Khan. I might go to AEW. And then that whole rumor, was speculated about him working in AEW and working under Tony Khan. Got a lot of people excited. And then WWE came in and kind of said, hey, we're not going to let you go over there. We're going to bring you in. We're going to sign you to a new deal. But we're going to send you down to AAA. And clearly that didn't work for Santos. He got injured and now is on the shelf, dealing with injury and trying to get surgery and recovery. And then WWE seemingly released Santos Escobar with him out being injured. This is the same shit that happened to Carl Anderson. He was released due to injury. They weren't using him at all, and they ended up releasing him. And then he was pissed off about it, and rightfully so. I'd be pissed off too, especially in Santos's position. I mean, hell, man, if I was Santos, I was on my way out the fucking door, bud. You brought me back. You didn't even send me back to the main roster. You sent me down to Mexico to work in AAA, and I got injured, been put on the shelf, and then you fucking released me. If I was Santos Escobar, I'd be highly pissed off. Highly pissed off. But they ended up releasing Santos Escobar. He is no longer with the WWE. Other releases I have for the main roster, Apollo Crews, which I'm honestly surprised that it took this long to release Apollo Crews. The other release names I have on here are Zoe Stark. Now, if you guys don't know who Zoe Stark is, she had some matches in NXT, got called up very quickly to the main roster. Triple H and Shawn Michaels had a lot of praise for Zoe Stark. Zoe Stark, from what I remember as Zoe Stark, she was in a stable with Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler as Pure Fusion Collective. Now, if you look at that entire stable, they're all gone from WWE practically. Sonya is now wrestling in TNA. Shayna Baszler, I don't even know if she's still employed with the company or not. And now Zoe Stark is now released. Now, Zoe Stark, we haven't seen Zoe in over a year. Zoe actually got injured. She blew out one of her knees, or both of her knees for that matter, on an episode of Monday Night Raw on May 19th, 2025, and has not wrestled since. Now, there was rumors and speculation for the past couple of weeks that she was actually at the Performance Center. She was recovering. She was back in the ring. She was training to come back to the main roster. And then we are now basically a year later, and WWE decides to let her go. Once again, this is like a Santos Escobar deal. This is like a Carl Anderson deal. It's shitty. It's absolutely shitty. I mean, this woman has been out with injury for over a year. Trying to claw, trying to fight back, trying to get any momentum that she can to get recovered, to come back to WWE and once again compete in the squared circle. And you let her go. To me, I think certain talents, bro, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. I don't think the WWE landscape that a lot of people are like, oh, I need to wrestle for WWE. I don't think that's there anymore, man. I think WWE, and we'll talk more about this at the end of today's episode, but it's turned more corporate. It's turned more corporate greed. They're about the money. They're about the ads, the revenue. That's it. The wrestling takes a back seat to a lot of shit that goes on in WWE, man. And we've seen it at this year's WrestleMania. So I think a lot of the talent that had that vision at one time of saying, oh man, the best place to go wrestle was WWE, I don't think that's the case anymore, man. I just don't. And if I was a talent that was released from WWE, especially talents that were released multiple times, why would you want to entertain to go back to WWE just to be released again? Why give them the satisfaction, bro? Honestly. You look at someone like Matt Cardona. Now he's back in WWE, but look what happened when he was released from WWE the first time. He made a killing on the indies, bro. You know what I mean? He actually reinvented himself on the indies. And honestly, that brought him back to WWE. So the indies right now are red hot. I mean, you got a lot of independent promotions right now that are putting on great wrestling matches, great events. And right now, these talents that are released, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them actually work on the indies, bro, for a while. Because the indies right now are red hot. Red hot. I don't see a lot of these talents going straight to AEW. We'll talk about that at the end of today's episode as well. But I don't see a lot of these talents going to AEW. I see maybe a selective few, maybe. Sure. But I don't see all these talents going to AEW. I just don't. So Zoe Stark was released. Alba Fire was also released. And then the other biggest release was the Motor City Machine Guns. They were released from their contract. They were let go from WWE on Friday. And they are now out of the WWE system. They're gone. They are no longer with WWE. This one, honestly, man, I was a little bit shocked, to be honest with you, because right now you're talking about Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin. You brought them in. You put them in the tag team division, obviously, on SmackDown. Probably the best tag team you got on that goddamn division, if you want to call it that. And you let them go. So when this was announced that the Motor City Machine Guns were let go, the first thing that popped in my head was, okay, well, who the fuck is on SmackDown that's going to compete for the tag team titles, number one? And two, is it finally time for WWE to actually wake up and smell the goddamn Folgers and realize that the tag team division is shit and that we don't need two separate tag team titles? Let's have one tag team titles and merge the goddamn tag teams into one that compete for one set of tag team titles. The SmackDown tag team division right now, if you want to call it a division, is fucking worthless. You had the Wyatt Six, they're gone. So Gacy and Loomis are gone. You have The Miz and Kit Wilson. You got Damian Priest and R-Truth as the current tag team champions. You got the MFTs, Tama Tama and Tonga Loa. And then you had the Motor City Machine Guns who were also released as well. So it does beg the question, who the hell is on SmackDown right now that's going to compete for the tag team titles? They don't have any fucking tag teams on SmackDown, bro. They don't. You released half your fucking tag team roster in one day with the Wyatt Six and the Motor City Machine Guns. DIY is no longer there. Ciampa's on AEW. Gargano's trying to do his own thing. Trying to, at least. Who do you got? Street Profits, they're on Monday Night Raw right now. They're helping Seth Rollins. Who do you have on the tag team side of things on SmackDown that are actually suitable number one contenders? What, Axiom? Frazier and Nathan Frazier and Axiom? I'm surprised they were also in the conversation to be cut. To be honest with you. There is no fucking tag team division on SmackDown, bro. They have a 3-hour goddamn show with a tag team division that is fucking deplorable. The Miz and Kit Wilson? Come on, bro. Come on. It's a fucking joke. It's a joke. You're gonna get released the Wyatt Six and release the Motor City Machine Guns, but you're gonna contemplate keeping Kit Wilson? Come on, man. Come on. It's a fucking joke, bro. Seriously. And it's a comedy act. It's the same thing with Danhausen. It's a joke. It's a comedic joke. And I'm sorry, I don't give a rat's ass about The Miz and Kit Wilson as a fucking tag team. I don't give a shit about that. I think that's a fucking joke. And then releasing Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, the Motor City Machine Guns, then why the hell did you bring these guys in for? To do what with them? Well, it took them, a couple weeks on the main roster to become tag team champions? And then you release them. So again, I ask you, what tag team division on SmackDown is actually worth a damn? The MFTs? Because as far as I'm concerned, it looks like Tama Tonga is on his way out the fucking door. As far as the MFTs are concerned, because he's beefing with Solo Sikoa. So what's that leave? Jeff Cobb? Or I'm sorry, JC Mateo? Tama Tonga? Or Tongaloa? Come on, bro. Come on. It's a fucking joke, man. It's a joke. It's an absolute fucking joke. These releases, I mean, look, I know a lot of people get shocked when these releases come. This is standard WWE protocol, folks. They do this shit every year. Every year. You know, they look back in catering and see certain talents that are just sitting there not doing shit because they got no creative direction for them. Well, we're going to let them go. And here's the other thing, too, man. I want to put this out here. I know there's a lot of people pointing the fingers towards Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro from TKO. Man, they're the reason why these people were released. I can tell you right now, Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro are not sitting in their offices at TKO sharing a fucking latte saying, you know what, hey, Zoe Starks, let's let her go. Get her the hell out of here. Kairi Sane, I don't know who the hell that is. Let's get her out of here. Apollo Crews, get him the fuck out of here. They don't give two fucks about the talent that were released. What happened was Mark Shapiro and Ari Emanuel came to Triple H and Mr. Khan, if you want to call him that, and said, hey, here's a certain number, and we want you to capitalize on this number, and we want this amount of talent released today. You find the talent you want to release, you and Nick Khan figure it out, and I want this amount of talent released as of today. Because Mark Shapiro and Ari Emanuel have no idea who's on the fucking roster to begin with. They don't give a rat's ass as long as people are lining their fucking pockets. They don't give a shit less. This decision for these releases came down to two people. Came down to Nick Khan and Triple H. At the end of the day, those people blaming Mark Shapiro and Ari Emanuel, bro, from TKO, you lost the 8 ball, bro. You're behind it. Those guys don't give a shit who's on that roster. As long as they're making fucking money, they give a rat's ass who's on that roster. That's it. They're not sitting around the round table drinking their fucking lattes saying, you know what, yeah, I want Zoe Stark gone. I want the Motor City Machine Guns gone. They don't give a fuck about that shit. They want to find enough people on the roster that's going to solidify Raw and SmackDown and make Shapiro and Ari Emanuel money. That's it. They gave Triple H and Nick Khan a certain number, and they probably said, I want this amount of talent released today before we go on air for SmackDown. Figure it out. Those releases came down to two people, Nick Khan and Triple H, and that's it. So if anyone wants to point the finger at anybody, you're going to be pointing the finger at Hunter, Paul Levesque, and Nick Khan. This company is all about corporate greed, bro. That's just what it is. It's called a spade, and that's what it is. And I get it. It's a business. I understand it. AEW has releases too. I get it. I understand it. But the talent that were released in this set of releases, like I said, most notably Kairi Sane. How do you let someone like Kairi Sane walk out the fucking door when she's been on Monday Night Raw seemingly every Monday night, dealing with Asuka, dealing with Io Sky? They were setting up a storyline here between Kairi leaving Asuka and pretty much disbanding the Kabuki Warriors. That storyline was getting in motion to happen, and you let her go. Why? Again, the Kabuki Warriors were also going after the women's tag team titles, but then you let Kairi Sane go. Then you have WWE talent and staff putting out tweets, hashtag, we want Kairi back. Sounds like R-Truth all over again. They don't give a shit, man. WWE does not fucking care. They don't. It's corporate greed. The wrestling takes a back seat anymore. It's all about the money and the ad revenues. Look at fucking WrestleMania. Night 1 had only an hour and 4 minutes of all total wrestling on a show that went on the air from 6 o'clock until 10. 4 hours of WrestleMania Night 1, and we only have an hour and 4 minutes of wrestling. Everything else was commercial and ads. That's a fucking problem. That's a huge problem. On a show called WrestleMania, the show of the Immortals, the Super Bowl of professional wrestling, and a 4-hour time slot for Night 1, you only give us an hour and 4 minutes of total wrestling. Are you fucking insane? This company only cares about revenue, money, and ads. This is the same company that's running the UFC, and UFC is turning into a total fucking shit show. UFC is turning into a fucking joke, man. Let's just be real. You got UFC talent, cutting promos and shit. It's a fucking joke, man. It's a joke. It's a joke. They only care about corporate greed and money. That is it. Wrestling takes a back seat for WWE as far as TKO is concerned. And like I said, for those blaming Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro from TKO saying, oh, they're the reason why these individuals got cut. They don't give a fuck who's on that roster. You think Shapiro and Emanuel are sitting there watching the fucking shows on Raw or Monday nights and Friday nights? Fuck no. They're out in the casinos, gambling, hanging out with Dana White, and pissing around. They don't give a fuck about Monday Night Raw or SmackDown as long as they're making fucking money. As long as their pockets are getting lined with $100 bills. They don't give a fuck less what happens on Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. They don't give a fuck, man. You think they give a shit about NXT on Wednesday nights or whatever, Tuesday nights? They don't give a fuck. They don't care. Why would they care? That's a job for Nick Khan and TKO. You already had Ari Emanuel say, oh yeah, we're ahead of creative. We control creative. But on our weekly episodic television shows on Raw and SmackDown and NXT, we let those powers play as they lie. We'll let Shawn run NXT, and we let Hunter run the weekly episodic television for Raw and SmackDown. These decisions of these releases they came down to two fucking people. Nick Khan and Paul Levesque. That's it. That's it. Paul's there every night on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, or at least on Raw in Gorilla. He knows what the fuck's going on. He's not stupid. But he let this talent go. I told you, bro, Paul Levesque's got 18 to 26 months, and his ass is gone. You might as well kiss his ass goodbye. He's putting everything in motion right now, putting Stephanie in the Hall of Fame, because he knows the writing's on the fucking wall, and they're going to let his ass go. Triple H is becoming the new Dana White. He don't control shit no more. There is no creative control for Hunter. Not fully. But these decisions for the releases, yeah, it came down to Paul Levesque. Sure. Which is fucking crazy because Paul knows the talent. He had high praise for Zoe Starks. So did Shawn. But you let her go. When she was on her way back from recovery, on her way back to compete in the squared circle, we're going to let her go. But you had high praise for Zoe Stark. Santos Escobar. You let this guy's contract run out. And he already had 1 foot out the fucking door. He's already talking to Tony Khan in AEW. 1 foot out the fucking door. Oh, well, wait a minute. We're going to bring you back. We're going to sign you to a contract, but we're not going to put you back on Raw and SmackDown. We're going to send your ass down to AAA. Which that did what? That did what? He ultimately got injured and is now on the shelf for 6 to 8 months and is going to require surgery. Oh, Santos is injured? Yeah, we're going to let his ass go too. We're not going to waste our time with that shit. This guy had 1 foot out the fucking door. Why bring him back? Why bring him back just to let him go? Look at Aleister Black, bro. This guy was with WWE. They brought him back for 1 year. 1 year. Now, how many of y'all can honestly say there was a lot of impactful shit that Aleister Black did once he returned back to WWE? Don't worry, I'll wait. Because the only thing that I know of that he did that was actually worth a damn was the storyline and matches that he had with Damian Priest, and the fact that they were going to put him in the storyline with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, and they opted for Pat McAfee instead of Aleister Black, which I don't know why. And if I'm not mistaken, the last time we saw Aleister Black compete before he got cut was in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, bro. So you had a lot of vision for Aleister Black. Now again, Aleister Black's, fault of his own. He was in AEW. He left. He thought the grass was greener on over in WWE. And they kept his ass there for a year and cut him. Literally, a year to the day, damn near. And cut him. Thank you for your services. Have a good day, sir. Best of luck in your future endeavors. 1 fucking year. And all you can say that Aleister Black did was the matches he had with Damian Priest. He finally teamed up with Selena Vega, with Vega being his manager, and that he was supposed to be the voice behind the voices for Randy Orton, which they opted out of, and replaced Aleister Black with Pat McAfee due to Ari Emanuel. And the last time we saw Aleister Black in a wrestling match, as far as I'm concerned, was the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. What, an Aleister Black thing, once he left AEW, he's going to get the Cody Rhodes treatment? The grass is not always greener on the other side, bro. It's not. So I don't even know if AEW is willing to bring him back, to be honest with you. There's already talent in AEW right now with the news that came out about Aleister Black that have stated that they don't know if they really want to work with Aleister Black once again in AEW. I think Aleister Black and maybe Selena Vega need to entertain the idea of working over in Japan. Honestly. You know, Santos Escobar, yeah, I think if he was ready and healthy and ready to come back, I would see him either in AEW or CMML, to be honest with you. I will not be shocked by that at all because Tony Khan has reached out to Santos right before he re-signed with AEW. So yeah, Santos Escobar would be a great addition to AEW. I would also, if I was Tony Khan, I would not let Kairi Sane walk. I'd be on the phone with Kairi Sane as soon as her non-complete clause was up and bring in Kairi Sane. The also other thing I would do for AEW, if I was AEW, I would definitely entertain the idea to bring in the Motor City Machine Guns, Sabin and Shelley. Because there's a lot of people out there that want to see a matchup between the Bucks and the Motor City Machine Guns. Absolutely. Everybody else, I don't know. TNA, Apollo, TNA maybe, Ring of Honor, Indies, I don't know. Everybody from NXT probably on the Indies, most likely. It's unfortunate, man. It really is. It's one of those things where, a lot of people get shocked by these releases, but at the end of the day, this is standard WWE protocol, man. They do this shit every year where they'll find talents and release them. Not too long ago, it was a whole list of people. Braun Strowman, and the list goes on and on and on. And a lot of people got shocked by it. And then we get these releases, and I think the biggest shock for me was Kairi Sane. You got Kairi, you got Aleister Black, Selena, the entire Wyatt Six stable, gone. They're all gone. Because Paul Levesque and WWE had no visions for these stables or these individuals. There was no creative progression for these individuals. No character development, nothing. I mean, the Wyatt Six literally competed every single week on SmackDown with somebody from the MFTs because they had no other direction for the Wyatt Six. You know what I mean? Now, would Tony Khan entertain bringing in the Wyatt Six? Probably. Absolutely. But again, that's still if. You know what I mean? Or maybe just Bo Dallas. Who knows? I don't know. But some talents are not going to go to AEW. They might go on the Indies. The Indies might be the best place for them. Aleister Black and Selena might be the best bet for them on the Indies. The Indies right now are red hot on the Indies. Red hot. It wouldn't be a bad start for Aleister Black and Selena. Apollo Crews, Indies. Absolutely. Zoe Stark, Indies. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Because right now the Indies, they're red hot, bro. A lot of people are watching independent wrestling right now. So, yeah. I wasn't shocked by a lot of the releases besides Kairi Sane, but I know a lot of people are like, man, I can't believe this happened. This is standard WWE protocol, folks. This happens every single year. And it's going to continue, unfortunately, every single damn year. Usually after WrestleMania, give it a couple weeks, and here comes the releases. It's doomsday for WWE. And they're going to clean house. And SmackDown, they cleaned house on SmackDown, bro, for these NXT calls up. I know they got Fatal Influence. I know Blake Monroe, I think, is coming to SmackDown. Ricky Saints is also coming to SmackDown. I think Raw got Ethan Page and Sol Ruka. SmackDown cleaned house, bro, to bring in these NXT call-ups. Hoping that they can turn chicken shit into chicken salad. We're going to see. We're going to see. And the other upside, I would say, out of all the news that came out, too, is that there was news that came out the other day that SmackDown is actually going to go back to 2 hours. Thank God. Because, bro, 3 hours of SmackDown on Friday night is absolutely fucking brutal. I cannot wait for SmackDown just to be 2 hours again, man. 3 hours for SmackDown is just absolutely mind-numbing, bro. It's brutal. Absolutely brutal. But, like I said, man, this was something where I wanted to talk to you guys about the releases, my thoughts on it. Kind of give you guys some news and rumors and just how I felt about the WWE releases, my mindset with all the releases and where I think they're going. Like I said, Aleister Black, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him on the Indies or AEW. Kairi Sane, AEW. Motor City Machine Guns, AEW. I would not let those talents go away. Absolutely. If I was Tony Khan and I was an actual businessman, I would at least reach out and have a conversation with both Kairi Sane and the Motor City Machine Guns for sure. Absolutely. Apollo Crews, Indies. Absolutely. The Wyatt Six, maybe the Indies, maybe AEW. I don't know. It's going to be very telling to see where these individuals go after their 90-day non-compete clause. Same thing with NXT. They got 30 days non-compete. It's going to be very telling to see where these talents show up after their non-compete clause is over. So it's going to be very, very telling and very interesting to see where these talents do end up after their non-compete clause is up. But with that being said, though, this is my WWE News and Rumors. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.